6:30, and I'd like to call to order the March 14th Shenandoah County School Board meeting. And do we have a suggestion that we meet in closed session?
First, you need to note that Mr. Street isn't here.
Sorry?
Tom.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, so before we do that, I want to make note that 5 members of the school board are here. The member who is not here is Tom Street, who's expected to come in the middle of our closed session. We'll have him ushered in at that point, but we decided we'll proceed without him for the first part of the closed session meeting. Okay. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. I recommend the School Board of Shenandoah County convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider several personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation of several employees of the Shenandoah County Public Schools under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A14. And I also recommend that the School Board of Shenandoah County convene a closed meeting under Virginia Freedom of Information Act for the purposes of discussing and considering several student matters involving the omission, discipline, or disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record of students in the Shenandoah County Public Schools under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2.
Do I hear a motion based on that recommendation?
I move that the Shenandoah County School Board convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider several personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A14, and to discuss scholastic records involving the discussion or consideration of admission or disciplinary matters concerning any student of any state school system under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2.
The motion has been made. Is there a second?
A second.
A second by Mrs. Rutz. All those in favor, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? We will reconvene in open session approximately 7 o'clock, and we'll convene in closed session immediately. going to reconvene the open meeting of the Shenandoah County School Board for March 14th, 2024. And I would like to entertain a motion to reconvene in open session.
I move to reconvene in open session.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The Shenandoah County School Board hereby certifies by roll call vote that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies. And only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Shenandoah County School Board. Each member responds as so certified when called. And call vote, please, Cheryl.
Mr. Street?
Yes. I said so.
Ms. Carlinio?
I so certify.
Mr. Gutschall?
I so certify.
Ms. Roots?
I so certify.
Mr. Ricker?
I so certify.
And Mr. Bartlett?
I so certify. Before we move on to the approval of the agenda, I would like to take a moment and introduce Mr. Joe Bowman. Joe, if you'd stand for us, please. We have a new member of our merry band today. Mr. Bowman is an ex-ag teacher, hurrah, good, who is steeped in parliamentary procedure with work with the FFA and is a retired businessman from the area. And we have discussed ground rules as follows. Any member of the school board or any other member who is engaged with business with the school board, when they raise a point of order, it would be Mr. Bowman's task to make sure that we are following Robert's rules and we're following the right protocols. I've also asked Mr. Bowman that if he detects a breach of protocol from those rules, that he makes it known to us so that we don't continue to go down that wrong path. Is that good? Okay. Welcome and thank you for being with us. So now we would like to take a look at the agenda and consider. Sorry.
Invocation.
Oh, we haven't. That's first. Okay. Good. Glad you started. Yeah. Today the invocation and the pledge will be conducted by Mrs. Carlinio.
All right, so we start with the invocation, correct?
Sure.
Okay, I would like to invite my pastor, Duke McCaffrey from Oak Hill Church, to do the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come here tonight and we just thank you for everything that you've given us. We thank you that you are a great God and that you care about each one of us here tonight. Lord, we just ask that your kingdom come here on earth even as it is in heaven. We ask that you continue to provide for our county, for each one of us in our homes, and we just ask for your blessing on us. We ask you to forgive our sins and those things that we may have fallen short on. Help us to be better people each and every day, Lord. Lord, we just ask for your protection of our county, of our state, of our nation, and we just ask for you to move in strong ways to protect us. And Lord, we ask you for the wisdom tonight, especially for our board members as they make decisions, as they go over our budget and they make plans for the future. Lord, we just ask you to pour out your wisdom on them. We ask you to help them to remember that one day they will have to answer for the decisions they make, and help them to make those decisions in good conscience. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Now we will entertain the concept of the approval of the agenda. And do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? And now we'll move to the pleasant task of recognitions, and we'll turn to our superintendent.
Thank you. So tonight we have with us Strasburg High School, and Miss Melissa Foltz will introduce our recognitions for Strasburg.
Dr. Shepard, Chairman Barlow, members of the board, it's my pleasure to come before you this evening to recognize many student athletes and other students from Strasburg High School. First, I'd like to start with Miss Emily Davis and Ina Ray Chrisman. Yes, yes, I'm not making you make a speech, I just need you to come forward. Freshman Emily Davis became the first Strasburg High School swimmer to win a state swim championship on Thursday, February 15, 2024, during the VHSL Class 1-2 State Swim and Dive Championships. Emily finished all-state in 2 events, the 200 individual medley, finishing as the state runner-up, and then becoming the state champion in the 100-yard fly with a winning time of 59.94 seconds. Congratulations, Emily, and we look forward to many more to come. Next, I'd like to recognize our state wrestling team in their state championship. On Friday, February 16th and Saturday, February 17th, the Strasburg wrestling team traveled to Salem Civic Center for the Virginia High School League Class 2 State Wrestling Championships. At the end of the tournament, Strasburg High School wrestling team earned their 3rd straight state wrestling championship. The following 13 young men qualified and participated in the event and brought home their 3rd trophy. I will recognize those in attendance with us this evening. At 106 pounds, Aiden Swank. Yes, you come forward. At 132 pounds, earning All-State as a state runner-up, Jaden Shanholtz. At 138 pounds, All-State as a state runner-up, Heath Burks. At 150 pounds and state champion, David Burks. At 157 pounds, Zach Bracken. At 165 pounds, Donovan Burks. At 190 pounds, All-State in 3rd place, Colby Shaw. And at 250 pounds and state champion, Hudson Conrad. And they were led by head coach Daniel Reynolds. Congratulations to these individuals on their accomplishments and to the team for winning the state championship for the 3rd year in a row.
While they're getting their picture taken, I just wanted to say, I guess the message here is don't mess with the Burks.
Yeah.
But I was a wrestling coach for a while, guys, and the thing that amazes me about wrestlers is how much discipline and individuality it calls for. It's kind of a lonely life and then out there in the mat all by yourself. So congratulations to you guys, incredible.
I can do that.
No, just a little bit for me. There we go, perfect. All right, now I can see everybody. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
And finally, in the past 4 years, I've been here many, many times to recognize this young lady for all of her accolades in sports and with FCCLA. But this time it's a little bit different, and this is quite an honor. At the 78th annual meeting of the United Way of the Northern Shenandoah Valley, Strasburg High School senior Paige Heiserman was presented as the 2023 Youth Volunteer of the Year. This award recognizes a high school student in our region who shows a strong commitment to helping others and sets a positive example for their peers. Through her membership in FCCLA, FFA, SCA, the National Honor Society, the Shenandoah County Student Advisory Committee, and Athletic Leadership Council, and her participation in 3 sports, cross country, swim, and track, Paige shares that service has become a part of who she is, as she takes advantage of every opportunity to volunteer and to be a leader. Paige shared with the Northern Virginia Daily that she enjoys volunteering because of the connections she makes with people of all ages. Please join me in congratulating Paige Heiserman with her recognition.
And from Central High School, we have Mr. Palmieri, principal.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Shepard. My name is Frank Palmieri, principal of Central High School. And it is once again my honor to recognize one of our talented student athletes for their accomplishments during the winter sports season. On Saturday, February 17, 2024, Nathan Lopez, CHS class of 2024, earned his second consecutive State 2 Wrestling Championship in Salem. In addition to earning back-to-back district, region, and state titles, Nathan has compiled an impressive resume of football accomplishments, such as being named a 3-time first-team district defensive player, regional defensive player, NV Daily Player of the Year, state defensive player, leading tackler for NV Daily, accomplishments that have earned Nathan a Division I scholarship to the University of Maine. More important than the mentioned accolades, Nathan has been the epitome of excellence, representing Central High School proudly. I can confidently speak for those who interact with Nathan on a daily basis that he will be best next year and that we wish him nothing but the best. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Mr. Nathan Lopez.
That is all the recognitions this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, before moving on, I'd just like to say thank you to Ina Ray Chrisman. It didn't ever click with me until the other night when I saw her taking admission for the soccer game. Some of these kids she's coached in swim team through the high school. She has been coaching since before they were even in school. She did that through Parks and Rec, and the longevity she's got with these kids is just kudos. Kudos to you, Anna Ray. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if the assembled crew here understands, but I was the 14th. Yeah, you guys have to stay for 30 more seconds. I taught school for 14 years, a coach for 14 years. I think in that 14 years, we had a total of individual 3 state champions. And here, you guys have, what, four of you sitting right here. That is incredibly rare, and one of those things to be, as a school system, to be enjoyed and celebrated. So it really says a lot for our athletic system and for our coaches and principals who can make this happen. So thank you for, I echo what Mr. Rickard said. Kudos. Thank you. We have reached that portion where the public is allowed to have comments, staff comment on agenda items and non-agenda items.
Good job, guys.
The Shenandoah County School Board welcomes public comment during most regular meetings and during public hearings. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting or hearing. Each speaker may speak up to 3 minutes. The board generally allows up to 30 minutes for public comments on agenda and non-agenda items at the beginning of the meeting. If there are a large number of speakers, the board may limit the total time for comments and or may reduce the time allotted for each speaker. At the moment, it looks like we have 4. So. All comments should address a matter related to Shenandoah County Public Schools. Complaints regarding division employees should be directed to the school principal or an appropriate school division official. The school board expects that each speaker will be courteous, modeling for our students how one can respectfully disagree with others' views. Speakers will address their comments to the entire school board and not to one individual board member, to the superintendent, to a staff member, nor to the audience. Speakers will not engage in personal attacks. Speakers may sign up to speak at a school board meeting or public hearing on a document provided with the clerk, such as this one. Speakers who are called in the order in which they've signed up. If time allows, the chair may allow comments from individuals who have not signed up. A speaker may not speak more than once on a specific topic. Speakers who wish to speak on more than one topic must submit a separate request for each item. If when you speak you would like to present a written comment to the school board, you can do that when you come up here and you make your presentation. So with that having been said, the first person who signed up is Rhonda Richard.
Hello, Chairman Barlow, Dr. Shepard, and board members. My name is Rhonda Richard, and I live in Quicksburg. And I hope I can see with these new glasses. Congratulations to all those that won at states in swimming and wrestling. True equity is defined as fairness with impartiality and inclusion. Who doesn't want to be included in life's pursuits? Unfortunately, those words have lost their true meanings. The term diversity is misused to deceive children into following a system that fosters division based on demographics and beliefs. The term inclusion is warped to justify the exclusion of anyone or idea that dares to disagree. This double talk has taken the impartiality out of equity, instead using fairness as a weapon to attain unrealistic outcomes. Maybe there's a place for social science experiments, but it's not in public schools. Let me ask a question. How can you focus on a woman who advocates diversity and inclusion when many, even some educators, refuse to define what a woman truly is? How can you celebrate inclusion where children are forced to use ridiculous pronouns based on sociological and psychological trends? This logical mess is a result of misinterpretation of what it means to be diverse. fair, and inclusive. I ask this board to vote in favor of Ms. Carlina's policy. I also want to say this. I have family that are lesbian. I love her just as much as I love my own kids, and she knows this. My problem is with the transgender part of this. Not everyone is out to harm, but that small percentage of those that recognize themselves or identify as transgenders, they may have ill intent in their mind, and sadly it's been proven that they have. And that upsets the apple cart for everybody. Say if Tommy wakes up tomorrow and wants to be Sally and has bad thoughts going through his head, how do we protect little Renee in the bathroom or locker room? Sadly, that small percentage makes it rough on those that mean no harm. We need to protect all kids and all staff and not to put them in harm's way. Please remember this. My rights don't end where your feelings begin. Now on to the budget. Most don't have issues with teachers getting raises, but that one teacher making $103,000 deserves every penny. Sadly, it's only one. Maybe we need to focus on those that make less than, say, $80,000 and bring them up to speed with those that don't teach and make tens of thousands of dollars more. We have 201 full-time employees that make less than $25,000 in this school system. That's sad. That's below poverty. We have 566 employees that make less than $75,000. We have 43 that make between $75,000 and $90,000. 32 that make $90,000, $1 up to $110,000. Over $110,000, $1, 10. $125,01 to $146, 1 over 140. I asked this board to ask for level funding this year, and remember those that pay your salaries are us taxpayers, including the employees. But we have not gotten that 14.5% pay raise in the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. Steve Heischman.
Good evening, school board members. Dr. Shepard, thank you for allowing my voice to be heard this evening. My name is Steve Heischman. I live in District 2 out in Connickville. It's good to hear that the weekly religious education program is holding steady, even at this time of year with a few students being out with colds and flu, etc. As we move through the Easter season, the students are learning the real meaning of Easter, the importance of Palm Sunday, and the significance of the empty tomb that Sunday morning. And many thanks to the host of WRE on the southern campus, the Yellow Barn, the central campus, the Redemption Hill Nazarene Church, and in Strasburg, the Strasburg Presbyterian Church. Many thanks to all three of those organizations. The gender identity policy and such, yes, there are viewpoints and opinions from both sides, and I know that this responsible board will make the right decisions when the time comes to vote. All students and faculty need to be protected. Today, we live here in a very confused and a very dangerous world, and students need to be taught right from wrong. As Christians, we know that our Heavenly Father created two genders only, male and female, period. The fact is that our identity was determined at the moment of the miracle of conception. And who are we as a sinful people think that we have the right to change that identity? Each of us are miracles of creation, and some of us are boys and some of us are girls, and all of us are here and was made for a particular reason. Some say that the morals of our nation are in decline, and probably recently, I did not catch his name, but it may have been said best by a World War II veteran, and we know there's not many of those left here on the earth. But he said, the problem we have with today's decline in society is we have 18 and 19-year-old boys that can't figure out if they want to be a boy or a girl. And just 2 generations ago, we had 18 and 19-year-old boys storming the beaches of Normandy. And that says a lot right there. On the budget, we all want and deserve more, and in tough economic times, we need to be able to separate our wants from our needs, whether it is a business budget, a public government budget, or our own household budget. And I trust that both boards can make responsible decisions on the budget as they work through it. We do live in a world where there's a major battle going on between good and evil, and let's not let evil win. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heisman. Wayne Sager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the school board, Dr. Shepard. My name is Wayne Sager. I reside in the town of Woodstock. Food insecurities, housing, emotional, behavioral, medical, and mental health needs. These are the resources that our student support specialists provide to our students and their parents. Tonight, I stand before you with an earnest plea to recognize and personally support a vital role within our educational ecosystem, the student support specialists. In a world where the challenges facing our youth seem to multiply by the day, we're in the middle of a mental health crisis, not only in Shenandoah County, but nationally. The role of the student support specialist has never been more critical. These dedicated professionals serve as the bedrock of support for our students, offering guidance, compassion, and resources to navigate the complexities of academic, personal, and emotional growth. They bring peace to a classroom experiencing difficulties. They have decreased absentee. They assist in fostering a safe and supportive school climate for all students. However, recently I learned how vital these student support specialists are not only to the students, but to the teachers and school administrators. They provide emotional relief to the staff, bridge the gap between the parents and the teachers, connect families with services, or provide services to those families who may not qualify. Go to medical facilities when a student's in crisis. Conduct home visits. Provide substance use and substance misuse services, and assist in keeping the student body safe and able to learn. But this not can be achieved through words alone. It requires a collective commitment from all stakeholders to prioritize the well-being and success of our students. I ask you, each of you, the policymakers, the budget deciders, to consider funding all 9 of these positions. I understand these positions were funded through CARES Act, and those funds have an end date. However, our students, parents, teachers, and community have become reliant on them and the services provided. And our children, they need them. So let's stand together in support of our student support specialists. Let's recognize their invaluable contributions and advocate for these resources we need to continue making a difference in their lives. I appreciate each of you and your service to this great valley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sager. Pastor Katie Goswan.
Dr. Shepard and our school board, thank you for the time. I would like to thank Ms. Carlinio and Dr. Shepard for pulling together this past month a mental health task force and for giving me the honor of being able to be in the room. I was humbled, to say the least, for the many people that had come from all corners of our community to be at that room, and I look forward to where that task force will go. I came to speak on supporting the student support specialists. I cannot improve on what Mr. Sager just provided you. I echo his words, I amplify his words. If we can keep all 9 student support specialists, that would be a blessing. I understand that there are 6 in the budget right now. and if we can find a way to keep 9, I would heartily encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you,
And I
Patrick
use less
Osborne.
of my time.
That's the last person who signed up. Is there anybody else who would like to? So when you come up, please state your name so we can record it.
Christina Lawson from P-Flag Woodstock. My pronouns are she, her. I'm here to talk about the transgender discrimination policy for students. When I tell people I support the LGBTQ+ community, I often get some type of religious pushback. When my father came out 45 years ago, he was no longer welcome in the Catholic Church. For most people, this would have caused a permanent break with their faith in God. Not my father. He knew that being a member of the LGBTQ+ community does not exclude you from God's love. During the last school board meeting and tonight, one speaker stated that the passing of the transgender policy is no less epic than the battle between good and evil. The truth is, transgender children won't know they're considered evil until someone in their church or their community tells them that they are. The truth is, transgender children won't know that they're considered dangerous until their school board passes a policy that assumes they're all sexual predators. In my almost 60 years, I've seen bad policies and bad laws passed by many well-meaning people who thought they were doing the right thing. History is not always kind to those people or those policies that were put into place. I've spoken at 3 school board meetings and told you some of what it means to be a member of an LGBTQ+ family. I'm here to remind you that these types of policies are not just recorded on paper, but affect the lives of real children and real families. Let's hope this school board chooses to be on the right side of history. I say to the LGBTQ+ community, you are not alone, and I will always stand with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Any other speakers?
Duke McCaffrey, Fort Valley, Virginia. I'm going to keep this pretty brief, but I just want to say I was disappointed to see that you all tabled the transgender policy. I understand you have pressing work with the budget, and I just hope that you don't forget to bring it back up. And then I wanted to quote John Adams, who said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other."
Thank you. That will conclude with the public comments, and we'll move to the consent agenda. There are numbers of areas that have to do with field trips and paid bills, religious exemption, and minutes and so forth. Do I have a motion to approve those consent agenda items?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
So the motion has been made by Mr. Gutschall and seconded by Mrs. Rutz to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And we will move into the informational agenda. So, Dr. Shepard, is Angie, oh, Angie, you're over there. Okay, I was looking around for you. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Each year, an audit is conducted of Shenandoah County Public Schools finances. Robinson Farmer Cox performed our fiscal year 2023 audit. Ms. Marissa Helmick from Robinson Farmer Cox will be here to present the results of this audit that show good and proper stewardship, fiscal stewardship of the Shenandoah County Public Schools finances.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Helmick. I am the audit manager that works on the audit for Shenandoah County, which includes the school board. So the overview for our audit results, we will talk about the auditor's opinion. We'll hit on some financial highlights, the statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. We'll go into a budgetary analysis. We'll review some statistical information from the last 5 years, and we will look at compliance testing. And at the end, we'll have time for questions. Our audit objective is to express the expression of opinions as to whether your basic financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. We report on internal control in accordance with government auditing standards. We do not issue an opinion, but here is where we would report any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that we find. The third objective is to report on internal control related to major programs and compliance with the uniform guidance. So here's the single audit and federal programming. Our audit opinion, in our opinion, based on our audit and the report of others, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, the discretely presented component units, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the County of Shenandoah, Virginia, as of June 30th, 2023, and the respective changes in financial position for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So the school board falls into this highlighted area, the discretely presented component units. We issued an unmodified opinion. This is the highest assurance that our profession allows us to give. It says that the financial statements are materially correct and conform to GAAP. So here, it's kind of small, but is the statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance by column. So the first column is operating fund, the second column is the cafeteria fund, the third column is the school activity fund, and then the total. For FY23, the school board ended with total revenues of $90.6 million. Prior year was $84 million, so approximately a $6 million increase. Expenditures, total expenditures were $93 million. Last year were $86.5, so about another $6.5 million increase. Other financing source, so leases, this was leases of copiers, and then subscription-based liabilities. This line item is new for 2023. It's to do with a new accounting standard that went into effect for FY23, and this is subscription-based liabilities. It relates to instructional software and more subscription assets. So fund balance began with $4.8 million and ended with $2.9 million. The next slide shows the Commonwealth of Virginia revenues. So total for FY23 was $43 million. This was up about $3 million from last year. And overall, we're just seeing an increase in state line items. There's not one specific line item, it's just an overall increase in each line item. One line item to note is the school construction line. The school board did receive more money than that $86,000, but has not spent that. So you won't see that total there if that's something that you're looking for. The next slide is federal government revenues. They ended shortly under $9 million. This is slightly up, I think, $1.5 million from last year. ESSER, CARES Act is where the increase is we're really seeing that. It was about $1.5 million more this year than it was in the previous year. Another thing that's different is there's about $700,000 in ARPA pandemic bonus that was paid for through the Corona Release Fund. So for the operating fund budgetary expenditure analysis, as I said, actual operating fund expenditures were about $85.5 million. The final budget was $91 million, so under budget about $6 million. The biggest place is that is for instruction, so right at $60.8 million in instruction. But this is up 82 from, it's about up $3.5 million from the last year, and instructional is really where we're seeing that big increase. That includes mostly everything, salaries, textbooks, stuff like that. Operating fund revenues for the last 5 years. So as you can see, they're just increasing year to year. There was a large increase from last year. So if you look here, the big increase was in local government. So there was about $3 million more in local government revenue and another $2 million in Commonwealth and another $2 million in federal. So operating fund expenditures in the last 5 years, 85 million compared to the 82, and here's where you can really see the breakdown by type. So you'll see for most places it's an increase. Things are just getting more expensive. Fuel, food costs isn't in here, but it is increased over the prior year. So for our compliance testing, 2 areas where we do compliance testing, we look at state compliance. So in this group, we're looking at some VRS testing related to retirement. We're looking at procurement to make sure that money is being spent in relation to the Procurement Act of the state of Virginia. And we also look at conflicts of interest policies, and then there's some other state compliance items that we're required to test. For those, we had no non-compliance or other matters to report to the board. We found no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. The next section is the single audit. We audited 2 programs that fall under the school board, the Education Stabilization Fund, so this is ESSER, CARES Act, as you guys might see it as, and we had no non-compliance or other matters to report. The second item is the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. This is where the ARPA pandemic bonuses falls in. So a little bit from the school board, another portion from the county. We audited as a whole, but we had no non-compliance or other matters to report in that area as well. And then any questions that you guys might have?
Looks like there are none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Helmut. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Angie, you back up again?
No, I was just going
Computer screen go. What you have in front of you is Mount Jackson. What happened to my computer screen? The Mount Jackson request for the deed for the water pipe to take ownership of that particular water pipe. If you look at Honey Run, you go around to the right-hand side, you see a little 10 by 10 brick building with a blue door. That's the building they're talking about. The water runs in from that field in behind North Fork, coming from Caverns Road, and runs right straight towards Honey Run. And then it goes around Honey Run, and part of that, where it goes around, is on the Honey Run property. So those are the lines that they are requesting to take over. We've had them, I don't know why, this is, from a long time ago. And when I spoke with the supervisor of the water side of the house in the town of Mount Jackson, he said, this probably should have been done when this was installed, but it just wasn't for some reason. So this way they will take over, the maintenance if something breaks and all that. I asked about water pressure, changes and all that. They said there wasn't any intention to make any changes with anything, to add anything or delete anything. The water already supplies the areas in the homes there. They just wanted to be able to get to it and access it and fix it if it's broken. And when that's been done in the past, they've come and worked on it and fixed it, but then we've had to pay them back to do it. Pay them, and this way we won't have to do that. So I don't think it's anything difficult, but that was some of the questions I think it may have surfaced. So.
I don't know who crafted this little explanation on here, but it's really very crisp and clear. So I'd just like to read it, because I think what it does is make it very clear to all of us that the easement will simply grant the town access to the existing water lines. No plans to modify, add, or remove any lines. so there won't be any impact on the water pressure. And if any of the lines break or require maintenance after this agreement, the town will be responsible for the repair or replacement. So those are the three bullets that stick out to me and make it pretty clear and logical.
I know it says in here there's no plans to modify, add, or remove. Will anybody from the town be here to answer questions such as what would happen if the farmer that has the farm there behind Honey Run decides to sell that and develop it at some point? If they tap that line, would it have any effect on the water pressure or the fire suppression for the schools around it?
Well, I mean, that obviously that would be a question we'd have to ask them.
Okay.
Follow up. I'll be happy to. I spoke with Mr. Lones day before yesterday, I believe. I mean, that's what he said, but I would be happy to ask him that specifically and let you know.
Okay.
To do that.
Yeah, I think we'd like to hear that. And I actually thought in one of the briefings that was broached, but we'll find out.
I hadn't heard specifically what you just said. I just heard it.
Okay.
If there were going to be any additions to adding on to it, just generally speaking. And he told me no when I did ask him that. But
I guess it depends on the zoning. Is it just like an agricultural zoning or the zoning for that area?
I don't know. I can find out and I'll let you know. Those.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Heimberg. Appreciate it. The next topic is it the library policy?
Yes.
Okay. So, back to you, Dr. Shepherd.
Thank you. Policy IIBP, library material selection, requires that new library materials go through a process to ensure the selection of library materials are of the highest quality, suitable for supporting educational goals, and worthwhile for the limited amount of time available and most appropriate for students. Regulation IIBP-R, library material selection, establishes clear procedures for the selection of new library materials. In January, the librarians developed a draft list of new books proposed for purchase and provided the list to the principals for review and approval. By January 15th, the principals approved the list and forwarded the final draft list to the directors of elementary and secondary education. At that time, the final draft list was placed on the division website for review. The directors of elementary and secondary education reviewed the final draft list of library materials proposed for purchase. The director of secondary education recommended reconsideration of 3 titles to be evaluated by a subcommittee of the Parent Community Advisory Committee selected by the superintendent. On February 15th, the subcommittee of the Parent Advisory Committee met and voted to allow the 3 books to be included on the final approved list. The 3 books requested for reconsideration were The Mona Lisa Vanishes, A Legendary Painter, A Shocking Heist, and The Birth of a Global Celebrity by Nicholas Day, Leave at Last by Sarah Pennypacker, and World Made of Glass by Amy Polinsky. The final approved library materials purchase lists are presented to the school board for information at this meeting, and the recommendation will be for the school board to approve the final approved library materials purchase list at the April 11th school board meeting. And all of the lists are attached to this item for review. Be happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to say that I appreciate the interim report, especially since it's a policy that we passed recently, and there were questions about its implementation. It sounds as if it's going smoothly, and as if the regulations have conformed to the policy. I especially want to thank you for putting each of the titles, not only those, but all the approved list, so that we can survey those as well. So that I find that extremely helpful, and I appreciate that.
Certainly.
So Now we have information on health, dental, and vision request. Dr. Shepard, do you want to lead us through that as well?
I am.
Okay.
And Derek is putting up a presentation, and while he was doing that, I will introduce, on January 16th, 2024, a request for proposal was issued for health, dental, and vision to be effective July 2024. The proposals were due February the 15th, and I think in this PowerPoint presentation, you will see the organizations that provided a proposal for us. So we'll just go through. So in 2021, January 1st of 2021, we moved from Anthem to Aetna because Valley Health and Anthem were negotiating, and there was a notice of intent to terminate participation in Anthem's network effective January 1st, 2021. So we signed an 18-month contract with Aetna. And Aetna held costs relatively the same for the 21 through June 30th of 2022. And then in July 1st of 2022, Aetna had a renewal, and the loss ratio at that time was 110%, which means for every dollar we gave Aetna, they sent out $1.10, which isn't a good business practice. So we negotiated. Their original intent was that our health insurance would increase by about 45%, but we negotiated to under 23%, and then reduced even further with changes to the benefits, and we eliminated the $250 deductible plan. So I want you to keep that in mind as we continue through this PowerPoint presentation, that we eliminated one of our plans. And then on July 1st of 23, the same thing, the loss ratio went down a little bit at 103%. So every dollar we sent to Aetna, they sent out $1.03. And they said their initial renewal was 26.5, and we negotiated to an 11.3%. But they were still losing money on Shenandoah County Public Schools. So this year we decided in January to go out for a proposal, and we issued the proposal on January the 16th, and the proposals were due back on February the 15th. The loss ratio at that time was 109%. So Aetna provided a proposal, and they came in at 18.5%. Right below that line, you will see that Anthem actually came in at 5.5% increase to our current. And since we switched to Aetna, our employees have indicated that they would love to return to Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. So this for us will represent a premium increase of $536,000. In our budget, you will notice that we put $1,020,000 in for health insurance increase. I think we were estimating a 12% increase. But we were able to, with Anthem, if we go with Anthem, have a 5.5% increase. I would like to recommend that the additional money that we put towards the additional $500,000 go towards our health care premiums, reducing those, and you'll see that in a future slide. So you will notice down towards the bottom, Anthem's Key Care Network for Medical. It covers more than 99.8% of the providers that were paid claims to utilized by SCPS employees. With Aetna, it was 98.6, so it's even higher than Aetna's. And at the very last, the last bullet there, you'll see that Anthem signed a new 5-year agreement with Valley Health, so we won't run into the same situation that we did a few years ago in 2020 with Valley Health. So the top slide, you will notice the organizations, the companies that submitted bids. There were 4 that did health care. So Anthem, Aetna, Centera, and the bottom one, United Healthcare. And some of the others just did dental and vision or vision. We presented this information to our teacher advisory committee, and they were thrilled to know that we were recommending to go back to Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. The next slide shows there are current rates, so that's at the bottom. And then at the top are the proposed. And I want to highlight it says proposed here and say that a few times as we talk, because it's going to be proposed until we know what the funding is from the Board of Supervisors from our locality. Because if we have to cut, this is one of the places that would be a cut, is in our health insurance premiums. But you will notice that we paid particular attention. Most of the premiums are the same, but we paid particular attention to employee child right here and employee family. So if we're able to make these proposed changes, it will put us in line with Frederick and Rockingham County with their health insurance. We're a little higher than one, a little lower than another. So, but we will be in line. So we won't be fighting this battle every single year as we move forward if we're able to make these adjustments. So the employee child for Key Care 1000 preventative would be a savings of $53 a month. The Key Care 1000 comprehensive dental would be a savings of $78 a month. The employee family preventative would be $188 difference a month from this year to next year. And then the Key Care comprehensive 1000 would be $682, which is a $231 decrease from last year. You will notice the middle columns are the Key Care 250. So we understand that some of our employees would like the assurance of having a $250 deductible plan, and this allows us to put that back in. It is still costly, but that would be an employee choice. They can do cost savings and go to the Key Care 1000, which is currently our plan, or they can purchase the $250 deductible plan, which will give them a lower deductible and a lower out-of-pocket payment. But those rates aren't so high that we couldn't bring it back. Because if you look at the rates, they're similar to what we're paying in Key Care 1000 currently. So be happy to answer any questions on healthcare. And Mr. Street was at the presentation on Monday, so he can answer some questions as well. Mike?
Am I understanding correctly, like up top there, employee only?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody were to get the preventive dental Key Care 1000, they would pay $33. But if they wanted the $250, that would be additional to that $33? No,
it would just be $143 if they went to the Key Care 250. It's not added. It's just, that's the premium, $143. And I failed to mention over in that last column, you will notice that we will be contributing an extra $25 to our employees who are on the high deductible plan to their healthcare savings plan. The deductible is going from a $3,000 deductible to a $3,200, and not because Anthem or Aetna said, hey, you need to do that. That's an IRS requirement. So we would put an extra $25 per month in their healthcare savings plan, which would offset that extra $200 deductible.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned a couple times that the staff was, what was your word, thrilled?
Thrilled.
What made them thrilled about the Anthem plan?
So over the last couple of years, there's perception that Anthem or that Aetna does not pay out as well as Blue Cross or Anthem. So that's their perception, and we've not been able to nail anything down to validate that, but that's people's perception. And I believe that on a previous slide, there was Anthem covered more than 99.8% of the providers, and Aetna only 98. That's still good. 98.6 is still good, but Anthem has a few more providers that they cover than Aetna.
Thank you. All right, the last item on our information items is pertains to the model policies on ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students and parents in Virginia's public schools, and the Shenandoah County Public School policies on gender identity. So this is a topic which the school board decided not to vote on while we concentrated not only on the budget but also got more information that we thought pertinent before we make a decision on the model policies. But about 10 days ago, I think, was about that time, maybe not that long ago, Mr. Rickard had another version of a proposal that he wanted to have put before us. And so I recommended to the superintendent we include that in the informational batch today. And so all three extant proposals are there to be seen, viewed, and compared. And so when we take action, those three proposals are front and center. I've asked Mr. Rickard if he wants to take a few minutes and explain a little bit of the context without getting into a discussion or debate. Mr. Rickard?
Basically what I did was I reached out to Ms. Carlenio and asked if I could kind of use her draft and make changes to it based on our meeting with Daniel Rose. And after hearing input from Ms. Rutz and you as well, Chairman Barlow, made those changes, put it in my language a little bit and resubmitted it to see if we could get some movement on that. So that being said, I can field any questions you all have. One of the things was on B2, the 24 hours of the report for discrimination, harassment, or bullying. We extended that out to 48 hours, excluding weekends, holidays, or other times. That was advice given by Daniel Rose. One of the other things was before we had in there on C2, per I think it was Ms. Rutz's suggestion about the psychiatrist. We changed that to just a licensed healthcare provider. That way parents wouldn't have to go to great lengths to seek those accommodations. And there were a couple other changes. What I had said at the work session about our girls teams being able to sit out of games if the opposing teams had boys on their team, regardless of VHSL rules. I inserted that in there as well. To cover our girls and our coaches. And then there was a change that I made under, I added the protections on I and changed, we added the term as reflected by the official record when we're talking about references of pronouns or anything inconsistent with the student's actual biological sex. Put a or in there, or as reflected by the official record. That way it doesn't hold our teachers liable or anything of the such.
Thank you, Mr. Rickard. I appreciate that. So I just wanted to make it clear that all three policies that have been proposed now are visible, able to be seen, compared. And so as we drive toward a conclusion and discussion on this, those three are available, and I invite the school board members to read and compare those three. And we may have, I'm sure we will have more questions and discussion when we move into the next stage. Thank you. We are going to move now into our action items for this evening. And lo and behold, the superintendent's proposed budget. We're going to do, I guess we should do personnel first, because, okay, I'm sorry. 5.1, personnel. So the superintendent did recommend personnel actions on the attached list. Those have been reported, discussed, and I'm ready to accept the motion to approve that personnel list as it was presented.
I move to approve the personnel list as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Mr. Gutschall and seconded by Mr. Rickard. And there's no discussion. All in favor, please say so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, please note all in favor. And now we can work our way into the superintendent's proposed budget. So, Dr. Shepherd. What? Yeah. So, okay. So the action item as is presented for us, I guess there are no slides for the information here. Okay. So, yeah, we have in front of us, at least in the board docs, we have the request made by Dr. Shepherd. And so I'll just recapitulate that and then ask for any motion that would result from that. So the requested budget appropriation totals $98,244,213 in 6 different funds or categories, which have been laid out for us. And I am ready to entertain a motion on that proposed budget.
Are we going to have discussion on the budget?
Yeah, but we have to have the motion for the.
A motion and then a second, and then you ask for discussion.
Mr. Bowman's giving you a thumbs up.
Okay. So, so we do need the motion for to approve the budget then. Is that correct?
I move to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget and the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 capital improvement as presented.
Second.
All right. So the motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget and the 2025-29 CIP as presented has been made by Mr. Gutschall and seconded by Mr. Street. And we are ready for discussion. Mr. Gutschall, would you like to lead off since you made the motion?
I view it as complete, and I think it's a well put together budget by Dr. Shepherd. One of our speakers mentioned earlier tonight, it can't always be about our wants, but our needs. And I think if you look through this, 99.9% of this is, exactly what we need to have at this point. Not a lot of loose spending and things that aren't necessary. So I thank the superintendent for putting together a budget that is adequate and something that I feel is appropriate for the school system moving forward.
Other comments?
Do we make amendments now or motions or what are we doing now?
Yes.
Amendments. Okay, so if I can say, thank you. I have one more place to look now. So, as you heard today from some other speakers, we had a very successful mental health task force meeting last week, and it was very well attended, as was some people have commented. We had the Commonwealth Attorney, we have Sheriff Carter, we have Supervisor Taylor was there, chiefs of police from Woodstock, Newmarket, and Strasburg. And Chief Sager was here today talking about this. We also have Judge Logan who spoke, and we have a lot of SCPS staff and pastors, community members, and social services. And one of the things that we talked a lot about was the student support specialist that Chief Sager also mentioned today. And right now in the budget, what we had cut it down to 6 from the 9 that we currently have, because they are currently funded by CARES funds, which are going to run out this summer. And the proposal is that by cutting it back to 6, we're going to have the elementary schools are each going to have one, but then the middle schools and the high schools are going to be sharing one. Now, I'm a little bit conflicted about this, or I was a little bit conflicted in the beginning.
Mrs. Carletti, just for
Yeah.
1 minute, let me ask a parliamentarian.
Yes.
Should we have an amendment motion on the floor?
No, you can discuss before you make your amendment.
Okay, great.
There's already the question before the group.
Okay, great. Keep going.
Okay,
You
no
can
problem.
finish your line of thought and then make your amendment.
Thank you. So one of the things that, so like I was saying, this is funded right now through CARES Act. We're cutting it back to 6. And one of the things that I've always kind of been conflicted about is this is not really something that we as schools should be dealing with. I mean, this is really a really all-encompassing kind of position that we're talking about. But as Chief Sager just so well described it, these are very important people that are serving that nexus between the students and the communities and the school. We're at a time when we have a lot of needs, and unfortunately for a lot of these kids, they're not going to be able to learn appropriately if their needs are not being served. We're also having a lot of potential issues with absenteeism, which, as we heard, has actually decreased because of these positions. And we have also a lot of potentially disciplinary issues, and eventually this is going to spill into the community. So this is something that I think is really, really important. So my motion is to actually introduce the 3 that we have already, just keep all 9 of them, so that each school actually has one of these student support specialists. I think I spoke to Dr. Shepard, and right now we're talking about an additional about $300,000, and this is actually including all their salaries, insurance, retirement, all that kind of stuff. But again, it's one of those things that I would like to see funded at least this year, and I would like to see if in the future we can actually have other agencies, or maybe the Board of Supervisors or Social Services, eventually create a niche for these positions to operate out of their agencies. But I just feel strongly that if we cut these positions right now, we would do a great disservice, not just to our students, but also to our community. And at a time when they need it the most, I think we need to consider funding them.
So we need a specific amendment?
Correct.
So the amendment would be to add the 3 additional student support specialists, so fully funded 9 positions at a cost of $300,000 in addition to what we have already.
So the motion for the amendment is to add 3 additional service support specialists to the 6 who are already in the superintendent's request.
That's correct. And I don't know if Dr. Shepard could actually, I don't know if there's a need to describe the positions better. I don't have that description with me. But I don't know if that's needed.
I think that's a germane question that we could ask the superintendent to enlighten us on the definition and some of the parameters and the roles of the service support specialist. Does anybody object to that explanation? Okay. Dr. Shepard.
So their supervisor is here. So would you mind if I called Ms. Litton up to the podium so she can actually talk about exactly what they do on a regular basis?
No, she's much too effective.
Thanks for staying, Debbie.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Shepard. So the student sports specialist, I wish there was a simple definition of what they do, but basically they connect and interconnect the school, the community, and the student. So whatever needs that family and student needs, the student sports specialist goes out and finds those services and helps to find funding if necessary for those families to have those services so that the student can be successful when they come into the classroom. And that can be anything from food insecurity, as we mentioned before, housing insecurity, mental health services, and any other services, mentoring, whatever a parent might need in order for them to be successful with their children so that they can be engaged in their child's life and also into the school. So that eventually it all comes down to academic success for our students. They will go out and do everything for giving a call for a student who's not in school today, and I'm going to give you a call and get you out of bed and try to get you in here. You need mental health, you need dental health, you need medical health, and we'll help you make an appointment and help you get there. Basic needs. You have to fill basic needs first before a student is ready to become academically successful.
And if I could add just really quickly, at the meeting, that was why it was so impactful, was to see all these police chiefs and our court, our judge and even our Commonwealth attorney talk about how crucial these positions are in terms of how they do their own job with regards to the students that are coming to them with whatever issues they have.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate the explanation. Are there board member comments?
Point of order.
Yes, please.
Second. I need to get a second on.
No, for the, oh, that's right.
Yes.
So, thank you.
There's
See,
technically,
you're earning your money tonight. Thank you for that. Okay, so, yeah, so we are at the point, Mrs. Colenio has made a motion to add an amendment that would add 3 additional student support specialists to the ask of 6 that already exists in the proposal. And we're looking for a second for that amendment.
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Rickard seconds that amendment. And now, ready for board discussion. See, Tom, I saw you first. You go ahead.
Yes, I have a question if I can ask Mrs. Litton. What is the average? How many students? If you have 9, how many on the average does students per each one that they advise?
That varies. Do I need to come to the podium?
No.
Right now, each student support specialist holds between 15 and 20 specific cases, intensive, very comprehensive needs that have to happen. But then they also help service students throughout the school day, and all of them have between 30 and 40 other students that they also touch base with intermittently throughout the day or week of the school, depending on what's going on.
Oh, okay.
So they average 15 to 20 and an additional 30 that they kind of keep up with?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more comments?
No.
Okay. Mrs. Rutz?
I, want to remind the board that our local composite index increased this year. And what that means is there is $1.9 million less coming from state funding. So what happens is that is put on the backs of taxpayers. With an increase of $3.5 million in an ask. So we're up to $5.4 million that we're asking taxpayers to take on. You know, it's tough for everybody, including the folks inside here, but the folks that have to bear the burden of the real estate taxes, the personal property taxes, whatever goes into the second largest budget, ticket item for the county. Well, first largest ticket item for the county. While I am very much appreciative of our student support specialists, when we got handed a whole bunch of money a couple years ago in CARES, we started taking on all these positions with the intention that there was an expiration date. And free money, there's no such thing as free money. I mean, it comes from somewhere. It comes from your pocket and their pocket and my pocket in one way, shape, or form. And just because you put a different title on it doesn't mean that it's not tax money. It doesn't mean it comes out. And what we were worried about when this was proposed is where we're at now, is that we would get comfortable with the positions and have to keep them. And so I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at this budget and I'm thinking, we've gone up every year. I can't find any time in a look in the past, I had 4 budget books out, that we've actually cut spending or we've cut anything that we didn't find a spot to just reallocate it. And so I am struggling with not only adding 3 more positions that we didn't have budgeted, with this composite index. I mean, it just, I don't think I could support the extra 3. And in my position, I think that if we want to increase money, we need to find places to cut. This isn't Shenandoah County Public Schools. Again, I think I've said it last year. It almost reminds me of the times when my kids were little and they wanted something. Well, just go to the ATM. Just go to the ATM. Not understanding that what I put into it had to come out of it. It was never ending. It wasn't bottomless. I didn't always have that. And I think it's time that the taxpayers get a little bit of say in where we're at. I don't have a problem with the cost of living and some of this stuff, but I think we need to find places to cut to offset it.
Thank you, Mrs. Rutz. See, have you spoken on this yet? You had not, right?
No.
Okay. Mr. Rickard?
I love what Ms. Rutz just said about us cutting spending. I would love to cut spending, and the thing to keep in mind to all the taxpayers we're accountable to is the fact that we're all taxpayers as well, so we bear the same burden. With the current situation of the community, I don't think this is the time to be cutting money in this area. I think we need to do whatever we can do to fund these 3 extra positions. The number of cases that Ms. Litton just said each one has, that's outstanding that they're balancing all those cases and taking care of 30 additional kids or 40 additional kids on a daily basis. To me, if we cut that number down, we're going to have support specialists that are suffering burnout, and then they're just going to leave the county anyway. So to me, we've got to figure out a way to fund those 3 positions if it means cutting funding somewhere else. That's all.
Mr. Gutschall.
So for me, looking at this, it's hard for me to justify supporting this, and a couple reasons for that. Number one, 6 was in the budget. It's a needs-based budget, and that's what the superintendent believed we needed when she submitted this to us. And you look at our division as a whole, there's a lot of positions that we could use more of, and we could field calls for a month straight from different departments of where we could use another position here, another position here. And quite frankly, if we do this, what message does that send to other departments in our school system, even if it's not exactly in this department, that may be in need or feeling burnt out or overworked? So for me, it's not something that I view as a fair outcome. I believe 6 is something that we should move forward with, and if it's something that doesn't work out well, then we could always revisit that next year. But that's kind of where I'm stuck at. I mean, obviously there's a lot of importance in what they do and the value that they bring. We've only heard great things of what they've done. Again, it's important to note that these were temporary positions, and the fact that we're not just cutting them all and dropping them all off, I think, shows that the school system finds value in what they do and they've been effective. But I just want us to think about other departments and other areas where people are also asking for help for new positions that aren't getting mentioned tonight. I think it's a slap in the face to them to be able to just throw these back in there. So that's kind of my outlook on it. But we'll move forward and see where we get from there.
Thank you, Mr. Gutchow. You have the last word, but I haven't spoken yet, so I'll have my intervention and then we'll give you the last word. When the 6 positions were created 2 years ago, I almost every time we talked about it, I said, please remember these expire 2 years from now. They're gone. And I had every intention of being the person who at that point was going to say they're gone. Too many times I've seen Washington put in programs that stay forever, no matter how bad they are, just because they were started. I changed my mind after hearing the presentations earlier this year from Deborah, and they're very compelling. And I believe that they have facilitated learning and education significantly in our county. I really, really am a believer. And I'm glad that we are trying to fulfill and maintain those 6 and drive on. I'm also happy that there's an aspirational aspect of trying to add 3. But I think Kyle is onto something here, that there are a lot of other needs that a lot of people kind of pulled back on and kind of asking over and above the ask at this point might send the wrong message. But there's another aspect of it too, which is what these 6 wonderful people do so effectively.
9.
6 now?
No, 9. Yeah, 9.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Is that they are not teaching. They're not in the business of what we would think is education. They're facilitators. They're doing a marvelous job. I love what they're doing, and I probably would like to see it increased. My issue goes a little bit to what I've kind of been feeling the last year or so, which is there's a lot going on in our school system that's bigger than education, and we, in the educational game, are asked to take on more and more of these tasks, while maybe the rest of the county is kind of pushing those issues into the schools to be taken care of. And that's not what we as educators, I'm talking about myself as a former teacher, we're trained to do and what we're supposed to be producing. On the other hand, we'd be fools not to understand in the 21st century that this problem exists of trying to get students to be more effective by solving basic social problems that exist around them and in their very own families. So I I think there's a move afoot, I'm looking at Mr. Wilson, to create more of a comprehensive plan for our whole county and not have the school system have its own comprehensive plan and the county have another where we don't integrate these things a little bit more effectively. So I guess my bottom line is I want to stick with the ask. I'm going to go and refund those 6 whose funding actually comes to an end. But I would aggressively like to look at how this program can be resourced in such a way that it just doesn't keep coming out of the educational pocket, if you will. So that's all I have to say. And Mrs. Coley.
Well, so I understand what the sentiment is regard to, first of all, I want to clarify, we have the 9 positions right now. So this is about whether we refund the 9 positions or we're going to go down to 6 positions. I understand very much the tax burden that we're talking about. I would be very happy to look at other areas of the budget where we can actually make some cuts to fund this. But one of the things that was that was a common theme at this meeting, and it was a large meeting. I mean, we had 20, I don't even know, it was like 20-some people, and pretty much the common thread was that things are not the same since COVID. In the last few years, these kids have really suffered like we have no idea. Unless you're in schools right now, unless your kids are in their school right now, you probably don't realize all the challenges that these kids and their families are going through. And I've heard about a lot of those, and unfortunately, it's one of the things that sometimes it could be at home, and the kid just doesn't have anybody to go to, or doesn't know how to get resources. So it was a common theme that COVID has really, not just here, it's all over the place, but it has been affecting our kids here in Shenandoah County. And we've seen it, there's the drug problems, there's a rising suicides, crime. If we don't attend to these needs now when they're in school, eventually it's going to spill over into the community, and we're all going to pay for it one way or another. And that sentiment that we heard, and we heard this from some of our principals saying that this student support specialists actually help the teachers because they're taking away the burden from these teachers having to deal with these discipline problems and these problems that they cannot solve for the kids. These student support specialists are actually taking that on and being able to help that student so that student is not going to be as disruptive in the classroom as it would otherwise be. So it does help everybody in the school. Like I said, I'm very much afraid that by cutting this back, given the very heavy load that they have right now, what's going to happen is we're going to have 3 of them that are going to have anywhere from, a core base of 40 intensive cares plus another 60. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So a lot of kids and a lot of families are going to fall through the cracks at a time when they need it the most. Because we know the economy is getting worse. Things are just getting worse. There's too many distractions, too many obstacles, too many challenges, and I believe it's going to get worse before it gets any better. So I urge everybody to please reconsider. I mean, even if it was something that we needed to add just 1 or 2, make it a floater, or at least discuss it that way. Because like I said, this is not like we're adding, it's not like we're just slapping anybody in the face. This is just about refunding what we already have right now, as opposed to cutting it out. But that's just, that's my motion.
All right.
I have a question. Mr. Chairman, as far as this CARES money, did that come from Fed or state?
It's a federal program.
Federal funding. And it was the Coronavirus Relief Act money that has to be obligated, and has to be spent by September.
Okay. So, if discussion is over, we'll call for the question. And the motion, once again, for the amendment is to add 3 additional student support specialists to the request. Will you do a roll call vote for us?
Yes.
Ms. Carlinio?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
No.
Ms. Roots?
No.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
No. The amendment fails by a 3-3 tie. We will continue with comments or discussion on the superintendent's proposed budget. So other comments on the total budget writ large? Mr. Rickard.
If I'd like to talk on the CIP and the COLA, would I do that separately or all at the same time?
I think you do it right now.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the staff that I've talked to over the past several weeks. Danny Ort's meeting with me, Matt Heiserman meeting with me to look at the state of the things in the county that we're requesting CIP money for. While I was doing this, I went out and met with Miss Tusing and her 3rd grade class to look at that playground at Honey Run. Big thank you to them. While I was out there, I didn't think to do it when I met with Danny, because I did go and meet with him regarding Central's lights and their press box. But I took some pictures of the playground at Honey Run, and I'd like to bring those up now because I know not everybody here, all the members of the board, were not able to go out and look at the things we looked at. As you can see here, the stairs have rusted through, and I caught it just at the right time. There's actually a child going up the wrong way on the slide, and I was told by several of the kids there and the teachers that kids at the top have to wait a turn until the kids come up the slide to go down because the stairs are rusted out. This is stuff the average taxpayer doesn't see every day unless their kid attends Honey Run. I gotta admit, I was blind to it because this is at the southern end of the county. I'm at the northern end. But I did get off work in time to make a trip down there and meet with the kids, and man, you couldn't ask for a more respectful bunch of kids. And then other things that I was noticing are that they pointed out while I was down there.
Make sure it's on.
Is it on
What's that?
Make sure it's on.
the side?
I got it, Kevin. Yeah, thank you. That was just a closer up where you can see where the stairs have actually rusted out. Here you can see the pegs that hold the retainers up that hold the mulch in. The pins are actually sticking up above, which is pretty dangerous. Maybe we could get maintenance out there to drive those back down. I don't know. It's not something I'm familiar with. This here, the kids actually pointed out to me. I guess the town of Mount Jackson had done some repairs to their pump house, and they ran the overflow out into their playground. And it was reported to me that that remained one big marshy swamp that they couldn't even play in anymore. And the picture doesn't do it justice. It's a pretty big area that takes up their playground or their play area. If you notice that section there in the middle, Ms. Tusing explained to me that when the 4th grade class goes out, there's about 130 to 140 kids that are expected to play on just that equipment right there. So that being there takes up even more space where the kids can't play. This picture here, this was the press box out at Strasburg High School. You can see where some of the flooring underneath has rotted away and birds are getting up in there and actually making nests and stuff. They're actually getting up into the walls as well. But you can see where water, there's doors on each end, the doors right above there, there's water getting in underneath and rotting that wood away. So, like I said, this is just informational for you guys because I know not everybody could get out there and talk to people. I had spoken about the lights at Central High School, about still being able to get parts for them. I actually went out and met with Danny at Central and saw the condition of the lights. While I was speaking to the fact that you could get lamps and ballasts and such for them, the wiring that's out in the weather all the time, that is actually deteriorating. Those lights have been there since 1985. And when I look at the CIP and I see the lighting at all 3 high schools, if we keep kicking that can down the road, eventually we're going to get to the point where all 3 high schools need to be done all at the same time. So it's a no-brainer that we've got to start somewhere. The press box at Central as well, Tom's looked at it. Him and I had a conversation about it. I think Tom found some ideas of way to save some money on that project, and I agreed with him after looking at it. The foundation's still in good shape, maybe a little facelift of the first floor, and that could save some money there. So all that being said, I think the CIP's good. I think it's a good plan. I think some of this stuff we really need to expedite, such as the playground for the children. You know, the kids need some relief of energy when they go outside, and I'm sure the teachers would appreciate it too. And the safety, the overall safety of the kids when they're out there. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the COLA, the cost of living adjustment. Man, I tell you, if you want to learn anything in this county about steps and raises, start asking questions. And I walked away more educated than I was, but also more confused than I was. But the overall feeling that I got, or the overall consensus that I got from every staff member, administration member that I talked to, from the southern end all the way to the northern end, was that the step was important to them. So I would like to make a motion tonight that instead of giving the flat 3.5%, even if we have to renegotiate the percentage, we include that step for all of our staff. So if we've got to lower that percentage to add the step in, I think it's a good idea for all of our staff. I think it would definitely raise morale. And basically what I understand from it is it's a difference of showing longevity and years of service. So I'd like to make a motion that we change that COLA increase from a flat 3.5% to a different percentage and include the step for all the staff.
Need an amendment on that.
Right, so this would be an amendment that you're offering.
Correct.
So you're moving to make an amendment, and I think we're gonna need some more precise language. So, I mean, you said 3.5 to some number?
I'd move that we change the COLA increase, or the cost of living adjustment, from 3.5% flat across the board to maybe 3% plus a step for the staff.
Could you
Yeah.
say that for me? So
Yeah,
I
repeat
moved to
that.
amend the original motion to change the COLA increase from 3.5% to add a step increase, or
I move that we change the COLA from a flat 3.5% to 3% plus a step for all the employees.
Okay, so Mr. Rickard has moved to amend the request, the budget request, by eliminating the flat 3.5% COLA to 3% plus step. I heard you say step for all employees. I'm assuming that's all the employees who are covered by steps.
Correct.
I second.
So the motion is made by Mr. Rickard and it's been seconded by Mrs. Carlini. So we ordinarily hear your rationale. I think we've kind of heard it. Do you want to say anything more? Or
No, I mean, I've talked with literally, I would say over 100 of our employees, all the way from principals and admin down, and the consensus has all been the same, that the percentage doesn't mean a whole lot to them. The step is huge.
all right. Other comments? Mrs. Rhodes.
I would like to know what that means, bottom line figures compared to where we're at currently. Your 3.5%, and how changing that will impact the bottom line.
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. It's an additional $395,459, which would be the local ask of $3,895,459.
So it would be roughly an additional 400,000.
Yes.
Point of information, so the step, because I don't understand it as well as you do, who does that apply to? Does that apply to everyone or just the teacher, staff?
So everyone would get a step. There's different percentage of increases. I'm sorry, I'm not. Is it okay for me to speak?
Please.
A step is applies to everyone. It's different percentages between each of the steps. So for teachers, it's a 1.1%. For some administrators, it's a 0.7, 0.8, or 0.9. For bus drivers, it's a 1%. So I think that's, yes. So it's different for each group.
But it's a minimum of 1%?
0.7.
0.7.
0.7, that's administrators, 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9, based on the scale that you're on as an administrator. And it goes all the way to 1.5%. And that would be our custodians and our paraprofessionals, who would get a 1.5% increase. There may be others, but those are the ones that I have written.
So your estimate, Dr. Shepard, is that that would increase the requested budget by $400,000 approximately, correct?
Yes. Yes. Angie would appreciate us rounding up. Tom, did you?
Yeah, I'd like to comment if I can. So since you did those calculations pretty quick, so
Yes.
and I will tell everybody, you know, I am in favor of the step from my reaching out, and I understand because I understand from their position, it's about the longevity in their career, and if you don't keep up on that, you get behind. So I may not be able to explain it, sorry, but I definitely understand it from their positions. So if you calculated that pretty quick, which that's impressive, and I had an idea it was basically 1%. So instead of 3%, what would it be if it's a step plus 2.5?
We're gonna need like 60 seconds here, unless Angie's already done it.
I think you shot me that it was 3,611,824, something like that. 3.6, I think. That's what you had. 2.5 ask would be $3,611,824.
I mean, we're here to discuss it, so it's no big deal. I only got to drive back to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania tonight. So. But I guess my point, in my opinion, is where does the step plus a percentage get it where we're at in the proposed budget?
Yeah, I like that.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Ms. Stein, do you have that number?
It's about $105,000.
It's how much?
It's about 105,000 more, because it's 610,000 per percent. So it ends up being 2.25 million. And we're currently at 2.1 million. So it's about
What's the increase?
So it would be an ask of, you said 105, so it would be an ask of 3,605,000.
What's the increase?
105,000.
105.
Is that right?
Roughly 100,000.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
kind of have to round up.
Yeah.
What?
And we kind of have to round up when it comes to salaries, because we want to make sure we capture it. So.
Then he's gonna do 3.45. I mean, 2.45.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's a number. What's the difference? Calculator doesn't know.
That's right.
So,
I like that.
my point of clarification here is that, so the amendment that you propose is that the COLA would go from 3.5% to 3% plus a step, and that would be an additional cost of $400,000, and the 2.5% would be a cost of $300,000.
No, 105.
100,000.
105.
105, okay, so, okay. I have that down, why didn't I see that? Any other discussion on this amendment?
So what number do you need to get to make it level with where we're at? With the step, without increasing budget?
2.35.
No pressure.
I bet you Dr. Shepherd has a program worked out before the next budget.
I've got the calculator back there.
I know she's back there. Why don't they put the camera on her?
The spotlight.
Thank you for asking.
While we do the calculations, can I just, then just speak in support of the motion?
I'm sorry, say again?
While they're doing the calculations, can I just
Sure,
go ahead?
go for it.
I'm just gonna be very brief on this. I know Mr. Rickard and I, and I've been talking to Mr. Street as well, we've been kind of focusing on how to make our teachers happy and kind of help with the retention in our school, because we know that a lot of them are tempted to go to Loudoun County or Prince William. And anything that we can do to make them feel appreciated and happy here is something that I would like to see. So I would definitely like to see if we can work these numbers and give the staff if that is what they want.
You'd be really close with the 2.35% salary increase plus a step.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was at 2.25, but I like your number better.
2.3?
2.35. But can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, and like she says, I guess, yes, we want to keep our employees happy. We're all about, I definitely support that in anything. But also, I also think it's right, just me personally, I think it's right that when an employee and their level of the steps, that they kind of stay in tune, because if you don't, then you get behind, and I think it's just right to keep them, it's just right for the employee to stay kind of within a certain range of their levels.
Okay, Mr. Gutschall.
I'm going to continue saying this, I guess, until I'm in my grave, but, I think the biggest thing here is the insurance. It's not necessarily the salary or what, you're getting paid. And we've had this, that's why I brought this up at the work session a couple months ago, because I knew it was going to become a big topic. But, in my view, the big thing is the insurance, and we need to continue making that a focus and putting extra money into that rather than continuing to do steps that, if someone's leaving because of a step increase or a lack thereof, I I would be highly surprised. But at the same time, I think that we need to continue prioritizing the insurance. And again, we look at the scales, we are very competitive with other districts in salary, from about 1 to 10 at least, year-wise. But the insurance we are not competitive in. So we need to continue to put money into that. That along with discipline issues and lack of support I believe was the main 3 reasons why people were leaving last year. Salary was not one of them. So I know that's one thing we talk about all the time, but looking at our analytics from last year, salary was not a top 3, maybe even a top 4 issue, but insurance continues to be an issue. So I'm going to continue to support trying to get the insurance fixed rather than step increases.
I actually am going to kind of piggyback off Kyle. Every year for this is the 3rd budget, and it's always, more money will make teachers happy. Sure, it makes everybody happy. It makes me happy to get more money. But it doesn't, it's not the reason that teachers leave. I think we've had HR give presentations every year. Discipline is one of the biggest things that causes teachers to leave. Being overwhelmed, asked too much, again, money isn't always it. It's great. It really is. However, if you go back to our funding, last year the ask was 7% in a step. The year before it was 5%. I mean, we consistently give increases every year, and I can't. I hate to say that I don't want to compare it to the private sector, but not everybody that's paying the bill gets a raise every year. They don't get a 5% raise every year. They don't get a 5% in a step every year. They don't get. I mean, gosh, wouldn't it be great if I could pull in an extra 7% next year? We all have the same bills. I'm not opposed if we end up with a level amount, with no increase. If the step is that important, I'm okay to work that out. But I don't. The step increases. It would be one thing if the step increase meant the same thing to those bottom tier, those parapros making less than $25,000 a year as it does to the professionals making $100,000. It's a big difference. It's still important, but again, I don't feel that I could support an increase to the ask. If we can work it out, I'll consider it.
Mr. Rickard?
Mr. Rutz, I appreciate you actually entertaining the idea of keeping it flat across the board, but adding the step so that it's the same. I would like to know, in just a guesstimate, do we know how many of our staff, what percentage of our staff actually participate with our insurance?
Angie's at 75%.
It was 758 participants, so it's almost 3/4, yes.
About 3/4.
Yeah.
Okay. Because none of the staff that I've talked to that have left or otherwise over the past year, money hasn't been an issue. The benefits weren't an issue. It was the workload, the lack of support. But like I said, I've talked to over 100 staff in the past month about this step, and it's hugely important to them. So for me, not including the step is a non-starter for me. I'm okay with Ms. Rutz's idea of lowering the percentage so that it's the same amount in the budget. I'm fine with that, but as long as we give them their step, like I said, it's massively important to all the staff.
I think some of our employees would love to participate in our insurance, but they find ways around it. And I think probably we don't have folks coming here. They don't leave, you know, they may leave if there's more money and better insurance, maybe so. But I think when they get an offer from us and they look at the bottom line and the insurance, that might be a deterrent of why they don't come here. Not as opposed to why they leave. And if we can, like Kyle, continue to add into that, you know, then maybe we'll have more participating. Maybe we'll at some point get to, you know, an 85% or a 90%, which can only, unless we've stressed them out to the point that they're on Xanax and drinking binges, but, you know, to the point that we would have a better participation rate.
Well, the only reason I was asking about the participation is I know overwhelmingly the majority of our staff are females, such as my wife. She's been with the county 10 years. We don't participate with the insurance because I cover the whole family through my insurance. I realize not everybody's that fortunate, but that was why I asked the question, was because of how many females we have working in the school system as opposed to males.
Okay. So we have an amendment before us, and it continues to be that we drop the flat rate from 3.5 to 3% plus step. There has been discussion about flattening that. We are, Mr. Bowman, if I'm correct in this, we are allowed to amend an amendment one time.
I would go ahead and get this voted up or down.
Okay. All right. So.
And then come back with another.
Okay. So.
Can I have a point of clarification?
Sure.
Can he amend his motion?
I would dispose of what's on the floor right now, and then we can come back with something.
So let's
just
make.
keeps it clean.
I appreciate that guidance, and so let me make it as clear as I can. Make sure I understand it too. So so if when we vote on this particular amendment, that doesn't preclude another amendment being immediately put forward that would have different numbers in it.
Mm-hmm. Correct. You're right.
Okay.
And yeah, you could do an amendment to the second degree, but it's going to get
hinky.
It just seems to keep it a little cleaner for everybody.
Okay. So based on that, unless any, and thank you, sir. So unless there's any, is there any other discussion? Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a roll call vote on the amendment made by Mr. Rickard, that, I guess I should say it again, that would change the flat rate COLA of 3.5% to 3% plus a step for all employees. If you are in favor of that, then you want to vote aye. If you're opposed to that, you would vote no. And Cheryl, would you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Mr. Street?
No.
Ms. Carlinio?
No.
Mr. Gutshaw?
No.
Ms. Roots?
No.
Mr. Rickard?
No.
Mr. Barlow?
No. Are there any further amendments to the superintendent's proposed budget? Mr. Rickard.
I make a motion that instead of the 3.5% COLA flat across the board, we go to a 2.35 percentage plus the step.
Second.
All right, so before I call that out, so Cheryl, did you get that? The motion?
I'm putting it in as we speak. All right, so I move to amend the original motion to change the COLA increase from 3.5% to 2.35% plus a step
Yes.
for all employees on the superintendent's proposed fiscal year 2025 budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, everything now except it's not an amendment of the previous amendment. This
No.
is just, okay,
The original motion,
got it,
yes.
okay. Now, discussion on, and
So
that
you need a
motion
second.
has been
I support it.
It's been made by Mr. Rickard and seconded by Mrs. Carlinio. So, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for a roll call vote on that amendment.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlinio?
Yes.
Mr. Bettshaw?
No.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes. So that amendment passes with a 5-1 vote. And we will return now to consideration of the superintendent's proposed budget with that amendment included. Any further discussion? Mr. Rickard has spoken. Any others who want to speak on the budget writ large? No one?
What was your question?
This is our last time to discuss before we vote on the entire proposed budget by the superintendent. Okay. I would like to say something, and that I think it was really well thought out. I note that last year we didn't ask for that much more. I think the raise that we requested is about 2.3% over the request from last year. And I want to applaud the superintendent for efficiencies that she has built into the system over the last year and a half, such as increasing of class size, but still commensurate with good education, and the attrition of staff that would allow for the budget to be realistic. And I think that planning has put us in a position where we don't have to make a massive ask of the county, but as I said, it's only, when I say only, 2.38% more than the ask last year. I think of what inflation has done, because the mango I bought in the store now costs me $1.48. Last year it was 68 cents. So this education is a bargain. Anyway, sorry. So I really believe that the analysis being done by the staff has been good. I also want to just say that I think that the transparency with which it was done, and the listening to folks from around the state and the county with input on this has been kind of a breath of fresh air and then finally, I think that the individual initiative of school board members such as Mr. Rickard and Mr. Street, particularly in talking to so many people and coming up with so many ideas, that I'd like to make it clear to everybody involved that there have been great efficiencies that have come about as a result of what these school board members personally have done. And I haven't been involved here that long, but I think that is something that was is almost unheard of. So I think the professionalism of the folks on this board and taking it seriously has been manifest in the budget that's before us. So those are the reasons that I think it's a good and supportable budget. So unless anybody has, Mrs. Rutz?
I appreciate all the hard work you all have done. I again will put my plea in that we start this process earlier. again, you know, the idea that, I mean, again, this is the third one I have, and it doesn't change. It only goes up. So I feel that there's probably a baseline that we start at. That come October, that we start having conversations with the board of supervisors on what we need to do, where we're at with things. You know, we cut, last year we cut iReady, I think it was, or iExcel. That was a program that was costing us $100,000 a year, and we hadn't tested it to see. Nobody had gone back to look to see whether it actually was something that was beneficial, if it was working. I mean, it seems to me school systems are like everybody else. They like newfangled things, and it all sounds great. Yet we don't go back and we don't audit the benefit of it, or is it working as it's supposed to? And what happens is it just piles on, and every year we have this program and this program, or this people or you know, are doing this and we're doing that. And when we get the budget in January, it's not hard numbers. It's an overview, and I still struggle with the fact that we ask the public to come and give us their opinions when they don't have hard numbers. And then we're asked to pretty much get it done in a matter of 2 weeks. So I think that I think to do justice to the budget and to be fiscally responsible, we need to start this somewhere a whole lot earlier than what we do. Other than that, it's, you have to spend money, unfortunately. So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Rickard.
I thank Ms. Rutz for those words, because until you're in this position, I mean, some of us just got on board in January and we were handed a budget 3-4 weeks ago and expected to vote on it tonight. I reached out to Ms. Rutz for some direction due to her time on the board, and I was feeling overwhelmed. I'm like, holy cow, we were just handed this thing and we've got to vote on it in a week. And she clearly told me it doesn't get any easier every year, that we need to start having this conversation earlier. And I understand the position you're in, Dr. Shepard, with not knowing the numbers from the state until the last minute. But if there is anything we can discuss earlier on, to maybe ease going into this session, I think we should talk about it and see what we can do, even if it is, that we don't have the state's numbers, but we can still talk about the wants and the needs of the county ahead of time. The more preparation I think we could do, I think the better serving we would be to the taxpayers.
Any other comments? I think we're ready for a roll call vote. And Mrs. Jett, would you read the? Oh yeah, there's nothing for you to read. I'll read it. How about that? So the proposal before us is to accept the superintendent's proposed fiscal year 2025 budget and fiscal year 2025 through 2029 CIP as amended.
Well, it says as presented, but the amendment will take care of that.
Right. Did we not vote on the second amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean that's the amendment that I referred to. Okay. Yeah. So we're ready for full roll call vote on the proposed budget.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenio?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
No.
Ms. Rutz?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes. But the record will show that it passed with a 5-1 majority. All right. Our next action item is a request for reappropriation of the 2023 fund balance. And Ms. Stein, are you? Oh, it is an action item. So we need to have a motion to approve the request for the reapportionment of the 2023 fund balance as has been presented.
I move to approve the request for the reappropriation of the fiscal year 2023 fund balance as presented.
Motion has been made by Mr. Rickard. Is there a second?
I second.
Mrs. Rutz has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes. Item 5.4 is a request for reapportionment of prior year's federal reimbursement balances. Do I have a motion to reappropriate, prior year's federal reimbursable balances as presented?
I move to approve the request for the appropriation of new state funds to the mentor. Is that which one we're doing? No, sorry. Hit the wrong one. I move to approve the request of reappropriation of the 2023 reimbursement grant balance of $71,950. Not that one either. I'm struggling tonight, guys. 5-4. 5-4. I'm in a hurry. Sorry. I move to approve the request to reappropriate prior year's federal reimbursement balances as presented.
Second.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Mrs. Rutz, seconded by Mr. Rickard. Is there any discussion? Hearing any, we'll ask for a roll call vote. Cheryl?
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
And Mr. Barlow?
Yes. 5.5 is a request to increase the special budget fund for fiscal year 24 early childhood provisionally licensed teacher grants.
I move to increase the special budget for fiscal year 2024 early childhood provisionally licensed teacher grant in the amount of $24,000.
I second.
Motion has been made by Mr. Gutschall, seconded by Mrs. Rutz. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
And Mr. Barlow?
Yes. Item 5.6 is a request for reappropriation of fiscal year 2023 reimbursable grant balance.
Let me try this again. I move to approve the request for reappropriation of the FY 2023 reimbursable grant balance in the amount of $71,950.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mrs. Rutz, seconded by Mr. Rickard. Roll call vote.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
And Mr. Barlow?
Yes. And my final action item is a request for appropriation of new state funds for mentor teacher grant.
I move to approve the request for the appropriation of the new state funds for the mentor teacher grant in the amount of $4,902.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mrs. Rutz, seconded by Mr. Gutschall. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
And Mr. Barlow?
Yes. You're ready to hear the superintendent's monthly reports.
Thank you. Our students who competed in the Rockingham Written Spelling Bee did a great job. Though they did not win, they all did a fantastic job. One of the words that the winner was given was statistician, and that's a really difficult word to spell when you don't have a piece of paper to write it down on first. So we're proud of our students. Congratulations to the Massanutten Regional Governors students who won awards at the Shenandoah Valley Regional Science and Engineering Fair. 9 students participated and 3 of them qualified for state science fair at ODU in April. Attendance was down slightly for February. We've started another attendance awareness campaign, and we are sharing statistics and information on social media and in the Friday update. Our schools will continue to find creative ways to encourage attendance. The classes with the best attendance at Honey Run Elementary School got to see Principal Berner kiss a cow recently. So good luck to all of our CTE students who will be competing at state conferences in April. Our FCCLA, Skills USA, FBLA, FFA, FFA is in June, though some competitions occur throughout the spring. So looking forward to acknowledging them in the next couple of months. Music, the Central High School and Strasburg High School musicals were wonderful. Our students and staff always put a lot of hard work into these productions, and it certainly shows. Mountain View High School's performance will be in May. So Central High School did Beauty and the Beast, and Strasburg High School did Mamma Mia, and they were both fantastic. And congratulations to our winter athletic teams. In addition to the state's first place winners recognized earlier tonight, we had many other athletes at all 3 high schools who performed well at both the regional and state level. So we're proud of them. I'll be happy to answer any questions on the reports that are attached to your agenda.
I have a question, sorry. So yeah, the attendance was a little disappointing this last month, and after all you guys had done, I was kind of disappointed to see a little blip, especially it seemed to especially hit the elementary schools. Do we attribute that to anything?
A flu and strep was alive and well.
Okay.
At all of our elementary
Maybe
schools.
not well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good. And that brings us to board member comments. Does anybody would like to? Mrs. Rhodes.
I just personally want to thank the support I received from my fellow board members and the folks of this staff for the cards and the letters, the well wishes on the passing of my mother. It was needed, and I appreciate when those letters came in and text, and I appreciate each one of you. You have no idea. And I appreciate the patience my colleagues have been giving me and some of the public through a really tough time. So I thank you. Thank you for somewhat of a seamless budget. I mean, it moved. It didn't seem as painful to me this time. But you know, the learning curve is coming around, and maybe by the time my term is up, I'll understand budgets. So I thank you for that. As far as we've always used this in board norms, as far as agenda items, I would like to have some information on the idea, and I think we've touched on it a little bit in the past, is about a 4-day school week. You know, you want to talk about retaining teachers and getting people to come here. If we were the first ones in the state or in the surrounding counties to be able to maneuver that, to make it work, to even probably investigate it would be something. So I would like to see if we can pull together some information on that. That is all.
Before we move on that, from that, so Mrs. Rhodes just mentioned an issue that we could take a look at sooner or later. And as we consider things putting on the agenda, Is this something that we want, discussion 4-day school week, is this something that you would like to see cast out, or something you would like to see us, I'm talking to you specifically for making the suggestion to put on the agenda?
I hadn't thought that far, Dennis.
Well, think about it. At the moment, go ahead.
You know, I think, Mrs. Shepherd, I know you and I have personally discussed this. I know that back there in that corner we have discussed it. I would like to see some motion to it. I mean, let's actually sit down and actually have a serious conversation about what that would look like, the engineering of it. Would it actually work? Let's talk about the pros and the cons of it. It would be something that unfortunately we couldn't put into motion fairly quickly. It would have to be some forward discussion.
No, but it is something that we could have an information briefing.
Correct.
At some point
Yes,
for
absolutely.
Feasibility and
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And who was next?
Mr. Rickard had it.
Mr. Rickard.
First of all, I'm overwhelmingly surprised. I thought tonight was really going to be a late night with everything we had on this agenda. So kudos to the rest of the school board. I thought it went pretty smoothly. I also want to thank all the staff that I've talked to over the past month about this budget. I want to thank the people that have approached me, the staff that I've gone out and met with. It's been a wealth of information. I also want to thank Ms. Tusing and her class for meeting with me and showing me the issues out at Honey Run. That being said, I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, March 22nd, I was asked to share this with the board. March 22nd, that evening, they're having an event at Honey Run. They're having a silent art auction. They're trying to raise money for the school. It's for a good cause. I will tell you, I saw some of the artwork. They put together some what do you call that? Cornhole boards that are going to be auctioned off. Phenomenal. Outstanding. I will be out of town that weekend, but if any of you all can go, I'm happy to share the information. Like I said, it's Friday, March 22nd from 5 to 7 at night. Any of the parents in the county, please go out and show them some love, show them some support. Also, I don't know, did the rest of you all receive a handwritten letter in the mail from a lady in Fort Valley by the name of Miss Botts? Then I won't bother sharing that if everybody got the same letter. It's been a long time since I've had a handwritten letter mailed to me. It was a welcome surprise. So Miss Botts, if you're watching, I appreciate you reaching out to us. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you. You made tonight painless. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Rickard. This is Carlinia.
Ms. Botts is phenomenal. She's a great friend, so I appreciate her very much. I want to thank Pastor McCaffrey for being here and doing the invocation for us. I also wanted to thank Pastor Goswin and Chief Sayer for being here and speaking on behalf of the student support specialist. I wanted to thank Dr. Shepherd for helping me put together this mental health task force. It was a phenomenal success. I think everybody was very happy with what happened. It was a very eye-opening meeting, and I know there's a lot of good that can come out of this, and hopefully one of those goods is going to be funding this position somehow. But we're going to continue working on that because I think there's a realization that mental health is a huge component of what's hurting our youth right now. And I think it needs to be a priority, so we'll keep on working on that. I also wanted to thank Principal Mason and Ms. Orndorff at W.W. Robinson who put together that science fair. It was great to see the experiments that the 5th graders were doing. I actually learned quite a few things, so I appreciate doing that as well. And next up, I'm going to be reviewing the retaliation policy. I know Dr. Shepherd sent that a little while ago, and we really need to put one together for our staff and teachers. And that's something that comes up quite a bit with our teachers. So we're going to be working on that, as well as I'm hoping our instruction committee will hopefully be meeting sometime soon. And I said 9 o'clock, but it's 9:30, so it's not too bad, is it? So thank you all for being here today.
You point to him.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. Mr. Street.
But Gloria, I haven't spoke yet.
That's true. Apologize.
No, it's not gonna be that bad. Everybody knows I'm a bottom line person, and I just tell it like it is. The three things I just want to touch on, and the one probably should have said earlier during the budget, but anyway, one, the comment earlier about the transgender policy, we're not kicking the can down the road. We have, as you can see, we have to get through the budget stuff, the time crunch, and so we're not kicking it, don't worry, we're not kicking it down the road. This board will address that and look at it. Two, I understand, number one, the school system, it's all about, hey, teaching and learning. That's what we're here for, teaching and learning. So, my visits and talking, I want to commend Dr. Shepard and the staff for all you do. In the schools administration, I can sense the goal, the strategy, what they're striving for, and I'm proud of it. And so, the number one, it's about teaching and learning. The other thing I want to point out, I want to give praise to Mr. Lynn at Triplet Tech. Was there again recently. He has a lot of good things going on there. And I'm very proud to what he's doing there, what he's leading there. Those kids there at Triplet Tech, hey, not everybody can go to college. Let's face it. If everybody, not everybody can go to, is fit to go to college, and so, but those opportunities that he has going on there, and to trade. So I know he's trying to get the community the businesses to be a part of it, to support it, and I'm all for it. So hopefully I can work with him and we can try to make that even better and stronger. Last, the budget, and I probably should have said this earlier. Hey, I know I'm the new kid on the block. I get it. She reminds me all the time. But so it's nothing new to a lot of you around here. But I do want, if anybody's paying attention to this meeting, I do want you to listen to this part. And what I've learned, and I knew it, but until you get involved, it's you really see it, right in front of you. And I'm just going to say this, and it is what it is. I'm actually disappointed in some of our levels of government. I'm disappointed that we only receive 1.6% of our total budget for the school system from the Fed, right? Very disappointed in that. Because when I turn on the news, I see a lot of money going through the Capitol being allocated to send out of this country. Hey, I'm all for helping. When I was a guard and we were doing a full-fledged mission with the C5s, that's when the earthquake took place in Haiti. And all of a sudden we were just, hey, West Virginia National Guard, they're at a full training. They're ready to go. Let's go. So I'm all for it. Yeah, let's go to Haiti. Let's take the stuff in there that needs to be, the supplies, water, food, things that we just, when we leave here, it's for granted. But I also believe in taking care of us, right here in Shenandoah County. And in the state, nothing really, I don't mean to be negative, but hey, now we're going to receive 1.9 million less than what we're supposed to get because of this formula that, it's kind of like we did well, but now we're going to be reprimanded for doing well, is one way to look at it. So a little disappointed there. What I'm getting at is, I think it's pretty easy for the Fed and the state to pass the buck. So who I feel sorry for is the Shenandoah County Board of Supervisors, because they're in a no-win situation. Everyone passed the buck. It's on the Board of Supervisors. And so I kind of feel, I want people to realize, they're the ones that's in a tough spot, because now all the fingers are pointing to them, and and we heard earlier, that's why I asked. I just wanted to make it out there, who funded CARES program? Well, that's another example of, here's some money, but we're going to stop giving it to you now. Now who's it up to? Well, Board of Supervisors, kind of. It all goes back to them. My point is, I just want people to realize that before you think, talk, whatever, remember everybody's kind of in a way past the buck, and I feel that group is in a tough spot because how are they going to, no matter what they do, it's darned if you do, darned if you don't, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I just wanted to point out there that that's the reality, and hopefully we can make things. Hopefully we can just somehow figure out how to make it work. So.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, I'd like to thank Dr. Shepard and Angie and everyone who put the budget together. Obviously, something that takes a long time to make this work, big budget book, but do appreciate that. Other thing was I got to go to W.W. Robinson again a couple weeks ago. It was, I guess, for School Board Appreciation Month, and went around and saw some of the activities that they were doing. I went to the art room, which I'm awful at art, but I was trying to be creative and do something. So got to make some figures out of, don't even know what the things were, but it was something different. And while I was there, they gave me T-shirts to bring here. So while Mr. Barlow speaks, I'm going to run out to the car and bring everyone in their W.W. Robinson T-shirt, so I don't forget them. And you can wear it tomorrow in the heat with your short sleeve shirt. So
I guess I know where I stand if you're going to go get the shirts.
Just due to time constraint. Just keep everything.
There you go. You didn't beat Princess Di, however. I want you to know that. Princess Di once spoke at a place where I was going to speak next. The room had 3,000 people in it. When she finished speaking and left, it was landmines. She picked up and left everybody with her, including the technicians and the lights. I was there in the dark, ready to give my presentation. So anyway, Princess Di did a better job than Kyle upstaging. Anyway, we've had some acrimony on this board, and one of the members once described this group as the dream team when we first all got elected. And I think that appellation can still work. And I saw some good behaviors and some good professionalism this last month that indicates that we can get on track and have been on track to do this. And I've seen individual school board actions that I have not seen with other school boards. And Tom has opened doors with individual members of the Board of Supervisors. We've had Mike get together with various teachers and others. Tom's been a whirlwind going all around to places, and it's been done the right way. And there is a right way to let the system know that you're going to visit people, and when you visit them, you're not just springing on them. And what I think is good about this group is you're asking for honest dialogue. And even in the midst of a lot of personal turmoil, Brandy still is Brandy, asking the tough questions, the important questions on the budget. And I really appreciate her doing that. And I tell people they don't believe it, but you're a force of moderation in my life. That tells you how things are.
You gotta get out more.
Yeah, I gotta get out more. You're right. One thing I wanted to say was I keep looking at these donations every week. They're so cool. So many people give so much money to the school system. I mean, companies and people and churches and auto repair and public officials, and we have to do something more to publicize, because I mean, I'm going to do business with these guys more, with the businesses and so forth. But it's really eye-opening to see how many people contribute to our school system. It's heartwarming, and I think it's kind of too bad we kind of hide this. I mean, you can drill down and see it, but you shouldn't have to drill down and see people giving of themselves so selflessly. So good for those folks, and maybe we should do more about publicizing that. Oh, you're back. Good.
Yeah.
Well, you're not giving out to church yet.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley, for letting me back in. The front door was locked, so.
I'll let the budget speak for itself. I'll leave it alone, except to say that I said a couple of years ago, and I was the Grinch the last couple of times anyway, it's easy to give away other people's money and look very generous when you're doing it. And so I actually appreciate putting the brakes on some of these things and living in a sense of reality and priorities, because all of life is priorities, and trying to figure out those things that should be funded and in context with what the folks in our communities can afford to pay. So I think it's important that we continue to do Overwatch, and I want to give a shout out to Mr. Gutschall for having the guts to do that. We will be discussing at our next meeting the norms, reviewing those. That's on the docket, just want you to know that. I'm asking that we do discuss the concept of where we go from here on career and technical education, because there's money and opportunities out there if we can figure cutting edge technologies that we want to come in and build upon. I do think that we are building bridges to other folks. I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Carlinio for the mental health task force. There's nobody that attended that meeting that wasn't impressed with what you and Dr. Shepard presented and how you ran the meeting. And it was apparently a real tour de force. And I think that's a good segue for us to work not only closely with the board, but also other agencies, not just government agencies in our county. And so if we're the 800-pound gorilla, then maybe we should use some of that muscle to try to bring some folks together. Went kind of under the radar, but we have the task of reviewing policies and making sure that they are up to speed, and we do that regularly. And Dr. Heingardner has created a really great system to allow those of us in the committee to go through quickly. I'm making up a figure here, but I'd say if it would take 20 hours to go through all those things and review them, he has created a tool for us to be able to do that in probably a couple hours. And being as lazy as I am, that's good news for me. But so I want to appreciate, I know you don't have to do that, but the fact that you do it makes it so much more effective for us. And of course, as he was doing that, Dr. Shepard was right there making sure everything was happening just right, because you can't keep her out of a meeting even if you try, so it doesn't work. Anyway, now I guess we should remind ourselves that there can be some tweaking of this budget as of next month. And so we ought to be watching what the Board of Supervisors are doing and ready to make any adjustments that we feel are necessary at that point. So as Yogi would say, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. So is that what he says? Something like that. Help me out here. All right. With that, I'm glad you're laughing, Steve. Thank you. Okay. I will entertain a motion. And Joe, you've been very patient with us. And we needed you. So thanks for coming. Anyway, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
With no discussion, I hereby adjourn the meeting at 9:44 in the PM.